Today on The Boot Guy, we're looking at the MaxxDry Boot Dryer. This baby's gonna handle gloves, shoes, and boots. So you guys have been emailing me since the Boot Guy started, asking me about these boot dryer things. And everybody who's emailed me, I told you they were great. I brought up all the great points about having one. And you guys have always finished out saying, you know what, you really need to do a video about it. So this is that video. And I've picked out my favorite boot dryer there is. And this is the MaxxDry. 4 vents, timed heating cycle, on and off heat. So you don't have to run heat through this thing. If you just want to run fresh air through it so you don't dry out your boots completely, which means drying out the leather and maybe releasing a little bit too much of the oil that's in the leather, then you can put it on no heat, and then it's just moving air around inside your boot. And that's one of the functions that I truly do like, is the heat or no heat function. And the fact that I have 4 vents on here instead of just a 2 vent dryer also is kind of something that I really like, and I think is really practical when it comes to work boots in winter or wet seasons. Not only can you fit the tubes on there, but with the way these 4 exhaust chambers are, is that you can get a glove on each one. Okay, and now this is unorthodox, and probably a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on this one, but with the price of really good wool socks, with as expensive as wool socks can be, I mean, you can get some really great wool socks for $30 a pair. I understand, $30 is a lot of money to be dishing out on one single pair of socks. If you're going to buy 2 of those socks and you're going to do the $60 investment, having a dryer like this that you can actually put this thing on and dry out that wool sock so you can wear it more than one day. I know, okay, so it's gonna stink, it's gonna smell, that's what everybody's gonna say. Oh God, my feet stink so bad. But if you're drying the wool socks out, they're not gonna stink as bad as if you just left them to dry and just didn't get any heat through them. The heat's gonna kill off a lot of the bacteria, which is what makes the smell happen. Okay, dirt helps a little bit in there too. So having the 4 exhaust tubes really is something that I like about this. And the fact that these exhaust tubes on the MaxxDry are so damn long. Now they're not as long as some of the hunting ones for duck hunting, where you get I think they're like 36-inch or 48-inch tubes that come off these things, so you can dry your waders or either your hip waders or your waist waders. So you can get those things dried out when you're duck hunting every single day during season. That for a working guy, having these tubes each tube is marked left or right, so it has a little bit more meat on one side and a little bit less on the other, so more of a reveal and less of a reveal. So when you do slide it down and you do have on some taller boots, say like these 13-inch roper boots, and look at that. That fits great. But what else fits great are the neoprene boots. The waterproof, knee boots from Muck, Lacrosse, Red Wing. Everybody who makes those new neoprene slip-on, roll-down boots, is that you can actually get that whole boot on here. Some of them, you might have to roll them up a bit, but most of them, it's going to fit right on here without rolling them up. And when it comes to neoprene boots and a boot dryer and you're rolling them up, you're still going to have that wet spot. No matter how long you leave them on there, neoprene is not going to release the water that's in the fold. So you kind of got to get them on there unfolded. But by the time you get that boot on here and that warm air starts moving through, the fan that's in here pulls a lot of air past the outside. So there's this whole suction thing that's going on around this thing. So all the items, the outside, the inside, it all dries out because of one single unit. So one of the questions is, what size boots will fit? Well, we talked about the neoprene boots. You can see that the 13-inch roper fits. Have a look at this. This is a 10-inch lineman's boot, which could be a logger's boot, depending on what type of sole you have on here. This is a smooth sole lineman's boot by Carolina. It's the 10-inch boot, and that fits on with that much more clearance on the bottom. All right, so that's a 10-inch boot. Here we have an 8-inch wedge sole, single piece leather. Now, a boot like this in a boot dryer is probably a really good idea, especially for you guys that wear boots like this, because you know that it's not about the winter time in boot dryers, because it could be the middle of June, the middle of July, and your feet are still going to sweat. Having a boot dryer to dry out the sweat is also a really good idea. 8-inch boot on there, no problem. So you're probably wondering about Gore-Tex lined boots and the heat from here and it messing up your liner. Won't happen. The heat from the unit is not hot enough to hurt the Gore-Tex barrier. Now that's not coming from me, that's actually coming from the MaxxDry company. From their propaganda on this unit is that they say it's not going to hurt Gore-Tex. But look at a 6-inch boot, perfect. As you can see through the whole gamut of heights of boots, from a 6-inch all the way up to a 13-inch boot, no problem. So one of the major complaints that people have about this unit is the noise. So it's a timer that controls the amount of time that the fan is going, that the heating element's on. So you can crank this thing up for 3 hours. So that means you get 3 hours of fan and 3 hours of heat. That's a lot of time, that's a lot of heat. It's probably enough to dry out your basic insulated waterproof boot that you're just completely sweated throughout the day. Or if you've got a neoprene boot, it should be enough time to dry one out. I have read in places and I have heard guys say that it takes 2 cycles to actually completely dry out a pair of the Muck Arctic boots, which is the real thick neoprene Arctic boot from Muck. So I could understand maybe 4 hours, maybe 5 hours to dry out a pair of those. But the major complaint that people have about this unit, which I don't know what they're complaining about. I keep the unit in a different part of the house where I'm not having phone conversations or where I'm actually talking to people or doing what I'm doing here, is the noise. People say this thing is super loud. So much so that people complain about the noise. So I got it plugged in. I'm going to turn it on. You're going to hear that, right? I mean, I'm sure that's coming through the microphones. It sounds like a fan running, but you could probably still hear my voice over it. It's not that bad. It's not earth-shattering. It's not annoying unless you got such a low tolerance for annoyance that this annoys you. Then you probably don't want a boot dryer. You probably want to get some other way of drying out your boots. Boot dryers aren't for you. But the MaxxDry unit, this is not loud at all. In fact, as far as they go, having that fan going, because of how the unit works with that fan, I think that's a pretty good thing, because that fan is pulling fresh air around here, sucking it through, running it through the heating element, and pushing it out the exhaust tubes, which is drying your gloves, which is drying your boots, which means the next day when you go to work, you're going to have dry boots and dry gloves, and you're going to be happy for a fan. So the fan isn't that loud. So that's the MaxxDry boot dryer, shoe dryer, and glove dryer. And hell, if you're me, the boot guy, it can also be the sock dryer. If you're currently using the MaxxDry boot dryer, please comment below. Let guys know if that fan really is truly annoying to you. Also, how long does it take if you're using neoprene boots on there? Please comment below. Let guys know exactly how many cycles you're putting your neoprenes through and what type of boot you're using on the unit so that other guys can gauge whether or not it's going to work for them. Hey, if you're looking to pick one of these up, swing by TheBootGuy.com, please. I'll have a write-up on it, plus I'll have 2 affiliate links on there from 2 different suppliers that will have these available. You can pick out which one you want, who's ever got the lowest price. Both are from the affiliate accounts that I work with as the Boot Guy. So please, if you're going to buy one, do it through my account. Hey, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. It really helps out. And if you should have any questions about the MaxxDry boot dryer or about boot care after you've been drying them for a while, what type of oil to put back in them, if you should be oiling your boots, if you're even wondering if your boot's going to fit on the boot dryer with the exhaust tubes, please shoot me over an email. All right, until the next time, I'm the Boot Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.